Hello everyone, my name is Cerebellum. Welcome to an Academy of the Ancients video. I'm here today with my good friend Azum, and we are looking at a Mars Elite tournament thing game between DK and Newbee. I forgot to look it up again, so I still don't know what it's called, but it's the Mars thing.
The
We're
something
looking
something.
at
The something something.
yeah, something. Yeah. This is going to be a bit of a stomp, and we're here to find out why, because this is actually a good scenario to analyze, because you can get some good information on these really decisive victories. That's something I got from my StarCraft 2 days. A guy called Day9 there does a lot of very
Oh
good
yeah,
videos for
yeah.
StarCraft 2. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about these team compositions before we go into the game. And what do you have to say about that, Assume? How's that for the
Well,
transition?
oh that was quite the segue there.
Thanks.
Um, let's see. DK's lineup mainly focused on split pushing. Nature's Prophet, Lone Druid, Dragon Knight. Enchantress really good at pushing early, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty heavy push lineup or split pushing lineup, I should
Yeah.
say. Newbee's lineup: Mirana, Timbersaw, Tree, Sand King, all huge team fight heroes.
Yeah.
Sand King, Mirana, pretty good at split pushing. Timbersaw does pretty well at split pushing, but for the most part, you think of them as like really high damage nukers. You know, getting in the thick of things. So I would say that about it. One thing that is kind of funny that you mentioned is a stomp. It's a stomp against DK. Spoiler alert. Which is odd because DK is like powerhouse Dota team. You know,
Yeah.
really expected to win the international kind of thing. And Newbie just rolled them all over the floor in this game. There's a few
Yeah.
defining factors of why it happened, but yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention is we do see a Treant here on the Newbie team. And Treant against a split pushy lineup is bad news. This living armor is just, when you're split pushing, like with a Weaver or, with the Lone Druid we're seeing here, with the Nature's Prophet we're seeing here, Dragon Knight and the Enchantress, if they, they can just do a 4-man push and they can force down towers, and Treant won't be able to do much there. But then Newbie have this huge team fight lineup, and they can just punish them for that if they want to go 5v5. I think Newbie pretty decisively should win this, just because they have all these AoE abilities that just should clean house.
Yeah,
And if they-
until DK gets up BKBs and all.
Yeah, and if they decide to not do that, if they decide to try and spread out and do this sort of defending and then also taking towers, taking the trades instead, then the Treant's living armor comes into play, and all this shipping damage they're trying to do will just be kind of not completely negated, but very much lessened, especially once you start to get some levels into it. So I think it's very odd that DK let the Treant through here. If they knew they were going to for a very heavy split pushy lineup, then I think it's a downright a mistake to let that go through, because it's just it's the ideal hero to do that.
Hmm.
I think. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And one thing
DK
about Sand King and Timbersaw as pushers is more that they work as pushing in that they can very efficiently clear out waves. They don't have any way to force down towers especially fast.
Right.
So
right.
they're more just lane pushers, kind of like Naga Siren, but to a lesser extent. Like Naga Siren with a
Riptide
radiance.
and Radiance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
then she can just push out every lane. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
I think that's about enough for the draft. So what do you say we get started?
I say that sounds good.
Cool. So 3, 2, 1, and play.
Prepare for battle.
So this is actually the second take we do on this video, so some of the things I reference might be sound a little out of whack, but yeah, hopefully we'll keep coherent. One thing I did talk about in the first take that I really liked, and I'm gonna repeat here, is the consorted movement we see from pro teams early on. And one of the things we're gonna watch for here is the fact that DK have an Enchantress, and Enchantress, because she's so reliant on creeps, is very reliant on the jungle, and because she's so reliant on the jungle, Newbee is almost certainly going to look to put down some sort of wards. And we are going to see that. A little bit of bug here on my screen. Sand King looks like he has a DD, but he does not, in fact, because that's not spawning for another 40 seconds. These replay bugs are so annoying.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
they
to
are
battle.
pretty annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
With Newbie invading the Dire Jungle, this is important to note that they have an Enchantress, right? An Enchantress really needs creeps.
Yeah.
So it's extremely beneficial to either get down wards, blocker camps, or two, make sure, like 100% sure that you know where she's moving. because
Yeah.
a troll early game with an ensnare or a centaur with a stomp, right?
Yeah.
An extra stun in your lineup, that's pretty huge
battle
for
begins.
ganks. So they end up getting this ward down
Yeah.
right in the middle of their jungle that doesn't block any camps, but does give them vision of 2 camps
Yeah.
or 2 movement areas. They can't see actually the large camp, but they can see if she moved from the
Yeah.
large camp.
With just this ward, they'll be very sure of where the Enchantress is at.
Right, and then DK just barely missed the D ward. It's
Yeah.
like an inch off. That's so close.
Yeah, these ward mine games get so tricky. It's just like this ward spot is very tricky. As you just mentioned, it doesn't block anything, which makes it a very counterintuitive ward. Like it just kind of you'd think they want to block and just deny her creeps, right? But no, they're not. They just want the vision. So that makes it very hard to de-ward, and yeah, it's a very much a pain for DK here to. It kind of makes the Enchantress a lot less safe, just because they know there's a ward. Like there was so much movement, they're pretty sure there's a ward around there, but nothing's blocked, so that kind of makes things awkward, I think.
So they end up getting this off, and they have 2 smokes. I think you had mentioned that they have 2 smokes on the Shadow Demon and the Enchantress, which means that they can maneuver around the map really quickly, and unbeknownst to their team or the enemy team.
Yeah.
So Enchantress ends up getting 2 creeps, right? A troll and the Satyr.
Yeah.
Saturn.
Satyr.
And
Yeah.
Satyr, thank you. The troll is extremely useful and then offers lots of DPS, and then snare is huge. The Satyr for burst damage.
Yeah.
So they end up getting these 2 and then instantly smoking, and they're heading. Initially, you would think mid because Timbersaw doesn't have an escape from mid. He's pretty tanky with his passive, but
Yeah.
they're actually going for the Sand King because they recognize that they haven't seen him in lane, which means that he's probably stacking jungle.
Yeah.
And then we'll end up getting a 2nd level and then being able to farm the jungle. So they end up running into him right as he's about to stack. Poor little Sand King. But they actually don't end up killing him because he has boots first. Lots of Sand Kings go boots first because you have to be in range for the stun, and most heroes don't go boots first, so it lets you catch up pretty quickly. So they end up not catching him because of the boots pickup, ironically.
Yeah, the boots pickup is actually very tricky for that reason. I think that is I would not expect that from a jungling Sand King. It just, it's only for escaping this, else it has no functionality when you are actually jungling. So, yeah,
Right.
I don't think they don't go on the Timbersaw because he has 700 HP just without, any kind of stat item. And he has a buckler and he has reactive armor, so he's super tanky. The Sand King, right after they fail to gank him, do a very smart thing, and then he's just heading up top. Like, they've just had 2 supports from DK roam to their jungle. So obviously they're not going to be in their forest, which leaves the lone druid alone up here. He can't farm his own jungle because there's 2 enemy supports in it, so he's just going to move right up there using his own smoke, definitely evading these two wards here. Oh, that's actually their own wards. So never mind, he's not evading his own wards, but just making sure he's not detecting and get a very easy kill on the lone druid, very easy first blood. And I think that's a bit of a mistake on DK's part. Like they could, well, okay, he could have been farming the jungle that's close to the mid lane for the Radiant, but else I think it's a smart thing to do, but it's also, if you're at a pro level, I think maybe it's a little bit obvious.
Yeah, it's a slight bit obvious. It's just the fact that they came into his jungle and then he immediately moves to get a kill as a level 1. That's what makes it hard to predict.
Yeah. Oh, we missed it, but we got it the first time around. The Ember Spirit makes a play on the Shadow Demon and the Enchantress here in the Dire jungle to force them out, or the Radiant jungle, sorry. And that's just because he has such a level advantage now. When you do make these rotations early on as supports, you get very, very behind on levels. You really need to make something happen with it. It's okay for the Sand King. He was a part of a kill, and it was really all you could hope for in that situation. So he's okay with that. He's not super good with that, but he's okay with that happening. But the Shadow Demon and the Enchantress are going to be pretty low level because of it. They pop the 2nd smoke now, and they're going to look to do a pretty simple rotation over here towards their safe lane to just try and make something happen here. We've got a pretty interesting dual lane setup here actually from Newbee. Mirana and Treant in their off lane and a Sand King jungling. So I guess it's not really a dual lane, it's actually just a solo Ember with a jungling Sand King and then a dual lane Treant Mirana.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really scary actually. So the reason this gank works out is because they try and kill the bear, right? So they have no cooldowns to survive this. I mean, he still has living armor, which he blows on himself, I
Where
think.
are you going?
Yeah, but they already have enough damage resistance to knock through pretty quickly. So the bottom self-sacrifices because she leaps for the support Shadow Demon.
Yeah.
She has no escape then.
Yeah. So,
But what you'd said before with the Ember down bottom, I missed that the first time around as well. But he waited until, because you share experience with neutral creeps, so he waited to get the neutral creep experience, which then let him ding level 4, which almost let him get the Shadow Demon kill.
oh yeah, so he just hung around out of vision while they were farming jungle to leech experience.
Pretty close, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it is a brilliant move. I didn't even notice that the first time.
Yeah, so, okay. One thing I want to talk about here is space creation.
Dire's
So,
bottom
the
tower is
Mirana
under
and the
attack.
tree, you could say they
Dire's
overdived,
structures
definitely
are
overdived
fortified.
up top, and, you know, support TPs in, and they sort of get, they end up with a bad trade. What is, if you just look at the trade, which is a Shadow Demon for Mirana and a Treant, that's a bad trade. But in the end, you know, they forced out 2 TPs, you could say, that they had the Nature's Prophet come on
Radiant's
top.
middle tower
The
is
Nature's
under
Prophet being
attack.
pretty mobile is not the biggest, you know, rotation. Burning getting caught out here again on the low druid. But still, like, it is creating a bit of space for the Ember. When you hear people talking about space creation, that is what you mean. Like, they're taking attention away from other places so that someone can farm up. And I think giving space for the Ember to farm up here is a very, very smart thing.
Ember, as soon as he gets 2 items, he's scary as hell, right?
Yeah.
He only needs, like, damage items, because he... sorry, I was thinking about something else. He only needs damage items because there's very little chance of him dying with the Sleight of Fist. So, as he just damages up, he gets his damage for free, essentially.
Yeah.
And then he has a huge effect on a fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Sleight of Fist was nerfed last patch. So he doesn't see play as much, but in this instance, he's really good against a lot of them. Right? He's really good against catching heroes out solo early on.
Yeah, super good at
So,
pursuing.
which is really good against like Prophet and DK and all, because they like to push single-handedly.
Yeah,
I think the draft was pretty brilliant in the Timbersaw, going mid as well, and not sending the Ember Spirit
yeah,
against
they
DK.
just tried, or a minute ago they tried for a gank on a Timbersaw, but with the living
Dire's
armor
top
and the
tower
reactive
is
armor
under
and stuff,
attack.
he just wouldn't die. Even though they got the disruption off, they got a Dragon Tail, which is super hard level 1 stun. He just didn't take any damage.
Literally taking no damage.
Literally take no damage. And someone is Timbersawing over at your place, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't realize my window was open.
Unfortunately.
Dire's middle tower
There
is
we
under
go.
attack.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
It's no problem. So DK making, or not DK, Newbee making a bit of concerted effort to try and push in the mid here. The Enchantress doing a bit of a trick here. This is something you can do with the Wild Wing Ripper. Is just take
Radiant's top tower
the
is
ability it
under
has, the
attack.
tornado, and just use it
Dire's
to
bottom
harass
tower is
basically
under
anyone who's
attack.
trying to push in, especially your mid lane.
It's really good against Timbersaw too, because it doesn't proc its reactive armor.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed damage.
Yeah, so he's actually gonna get down to half life just from walking into a creep wave with the tornado on him. So it's super effective.
Dire's bottom
It's
tower is
so
under
annoying
attack.
if you're playing an Enchantress and just sending your first creep down towards middle to help out that lane is super effective. You have the GG Satyr that the pros keep harping on about, the one with the mana burn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that
Yep.
used to be all the rage, sending that mid. And just
There's
Being
free
super
100 damage nuke on
Yeah.
like a 4-second cooldown.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, that's balanced.
yeah. So I know the searing chains, or not the searing, yeah, the searing chains on Ember Spirit got nerfed, like the stun duration got nerfed heavily. But what did the Sleight of Fist get nerfed with?
Sleight of Fist doesn't do as much damage to heroes, I think. I'm not sure if it was affected by creeps.
Okay.
But you get bonus hero damage. I think it was 100, which was before, which doesn't seem like that huge of a damage, but as soon as you put in something like Cleave or whatever, that really starts affecting the numbers.
Yeah, and also it's
So-
on a 6-second cooldown. That's
Right.
It's just so much reach. That's what's so tricky about it. You can just always hit it, and hit it often. It's just super good.
Yeah, his initiation range is enormous because of his ult, right? So he uses that to quickly close the gap on something, and then on top of it, like he could ult a second time and then still slide a fist, right?
Yeah.
So he can hold enemies in place when you're chasing. He's really good at chasing. But then late game, he's scaled so hard because slide a fist does so much damage.
Yeah.
Combined with an item or two.
Dire's
Yeah.
middle
So if we look at the
tower is
last
under
hits right
attack.
now, the Timbersaw is noticeably ahead of everyone else, and I think I'm gonna agree with you there that this is a really good matchup. That Timbersaw versus
Dire's
DK,
bottom
like
tower is under
if
attack.
he uses the Whirling Death early on, he's pretty much guaranteed to hit the DK, and that's gonna be pain. So yeah, it's just really
It's worth noting that he doesn't actually max it. He only gets 3 points,
Yeah.
and that's because I think the reason actually he got the third point is because he got the solo kill on the Dragon Knight. Usually Timbersaws will leave it at 2,
Yeah.
or even 1 if they're not mid.
yeah.
You usually get 2 or 3 points only if you're mid because you don't have any trees to use if you're maxing Timber Chain. They're just too far away.
Yeah.
So they 3-man smoke to come up on this Dragon Knight. The Dragon Knight has 1,600 gold, right? He could buy part of a Shadow Blade right now, isn't it? Claymore's 1,600, right? So he could get this.
Remember actually.
So they end up trying to go for him, but he
Radiant's top
pops
tower
Region
is under
Rune and goes
attack.
bottom. Right, so they're like, well, screw this, we're gonna go kill Burning again. So
Yeah.
they end up having a huge pretty pull on this. But Timbersaw comes up, he's pretty over level at this point, he's almost level 10. And
Yeah.
they're gonna end up getting the Druid.
Yeah. The shock damage from
Timbersaw
Timbersaw at this point is just huge.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
The Satyr actually does lots of damage. They end up getting the Shadow Demon kill with the long range chakram.
So Enchantress hit her level 6, and she has got Impeders now, and that is doing a ton of work for her here. But now pretty much everyone has come up top, and she's gonna go down as well to the insane reach of the Ember, which we just talked about, and the now max Timber Chain, just giving them so much reach.
Radiant's bottom
Can't
tower
pretty
is
much.
under attack.
Yeah, this just. If you look at it, all the heroes have so much reach. Like Sand King is also good about reach. Duran is also good about reach. The
Dire's
only one
top
who's
tower
kind of
is under
limited in
attack.
engagement range is the Treants. The
Radiant
Treants just there to
structures
kind
are
of
fortified.
help and counter.
Make sure everyone else is in there.
Yeah,
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
and also to kind of soften
Dire's
the blow
top
from
tower is
overcommitting.
under attack.
Like the living armor can also just kind of make it harder for
Radiant's
you to
middle
be
tower
punished for
has
overcommitting.
fallen.
That's true. The Sand King had to dive pretty far with
Yeah,
with his stun and that, and he was taking tower hits, but he got living armored up, so that he ended up surviving, which made him be able to afford the blink.
yeah. I
So,
think they
that's
only.
a 12-minute blink on a Sand King. That is scary, right
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah. So that is pretty much like I think DK were pretty much gambling or trying very hard to not make that happen. Like they were contesting his jungle pretty heavily early on, and that just with him getting the blink already, that's a failure.
Yeah, he moved around. His movements were just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, really, really good. Yeah. It's
So the problem they have right now, DK, is that it's 13 minutes in. Druid only has a Midas. Right? He doesn't have boots on his bear.
Yeah.
He is like getting behind. Ember is getting closer to drums. I'm pretty sure he finished his drums and maybe bottom gets drums too. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But Enchantress has an
Radiant's
urn,
bottom tower
and
is
that's
under
it.
attack.
Treads. That is worth mentioning though. Enchantress is pretty good against Timber because Impetus is pure damage,
Yeah.
which goes through, so it doesn't proc his
Yeah.
armor. Yeah, and the armor has no effect on him.
And if you try to flee with Timber Chain, that Impetus is just gonna hurt.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Impetus, of course, is distant based, and that's why it's just
Dire's
such a
top
good
tower
ability.
is
It's
under attack.
so good. If we look at it, actually, there's another factor here, and that is that there's actually
Dire's
2
top
Midases
tower has
on
fallen.
DK's team, despite them having a kind of shaky early game. So you talked about the lineup being greedy, or at least you did. One of these 2 takes we did, and these Midas just going further in that direction, you know. It's not going to make it any easier to survive the early game with a Midas on your Nature's Prophet and a Midas on your Lone Druid.
Sprites are with us.
So they're going to get caught out trying to push in the bottom tower here, and they're going to lose 3 for basically nothing. There's not even any chip damage that needs to be healed up on the bottom tower, so just a very effective response from Newbee here.
That is indeed correct. The Sand King. Let's talk a little bit about what Sand King and Potom offer as purely sports. They're 2 heroes that force you to buy detection. Like, you know, if you're up against a Clinks or a Slark that goes Lothars, you know, or a Weave or something, you have to buy detection, which forces your supports into buying more things that are not directly contributing to, like, getting up an item like a Force Staff or something, right? They have to buy Sentry's Dust and all that. So Sand King has to do it with the Sandstorm. Potom has to do it. You have to have it for the ulti. Otherwise, you just lose a fight, right? Because you can't see them. So this is taxing the supports because Enchantress had to buy Dust, I think, twice now. Shadow Demon hasn't actually had detection because he can't afford it. He's got 110 gold. He's been buying smokes and all to try to make stuff happen, but it's 11-3. This is just not working out for him.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point to bring up, is that normally this wouldn't be the case with Sand King, that that Sandstorm is so counterable normally because you can know where he is. If you have any kind of AoE stun, you can just disable it that way. But they don't have anything of that sort. Like maybe if Enchantress gets the Centaur, they can disable it that way, and they can kill the Sand King without having detection. But yeah, I think the fact that there's no AoE stun kind of hurts them against the Sand King a lot.
Sand King got buffed in that regard too. The Sandstorm now does the full duration at all levels, right? But one of the biggest things is that it continues to do the animation, doesn't do damage, but it does it for like 2 seconds or something after he cancels it. So he's a huge juking hero. I love playing the hero too. He's hella fun to play. But one thing you can do to juke out an opponent is you can Sandstorm and then move, right? They still see the animation of the Sandstorm going. They don't see you for like 2 or 2.5 seconds later, or 1.5 seconds later. Sorry. So that's actually really it's like if you're gonna try and bait a DK Fire Breath or something, right? Then you start Sandstorming and then you move. He still thinks you're there. He can Fire Breathe, but he misses you, right? So the Sand King that's a huge one of the most influential buffs, I think, of the hero.
Yeah. Well, the most recent buff was the change to the area of effect of his Sandstorm.
Right.
And that's much more about his farming early on. Now you can use just a level 2 Sandstorm to jungle effectively, which was not the case before. Just because the creeps would run out of the AoE so often that it would turn into very little DPS.
And it lasts... Oh no, I don't think the duration changed. Maybe it lasts longer? I don't remember. But yeah, you're correct. So now,
Radiant's bottom tower has
Druid
fallen.
realizes he's screwed, so he's just running in circles.
Yeah.
I guess it's
anyway,
to give him a better chance of getting Entangled procs off, but...
and also just to buy time for Mushi to push down the tier 2 bottom. And they do get that, so they have maybe a slight advantage in tower pushing, but certainly not what this lineup wants to have at this point.
I'm actually surprised they already have 3 towers down against a tree.
Yeah.
So, you're right, Mushi he's something to talk about as well. He did finish a Shadow Blade at a reasonable time. It's like 14 minutes, I think, or something. I mean, there's been no kills based off of it, which is what you want to have when you have a Shadow Blade. But because the other team is so far ahead, I mean, it's even in towers, but it's 12-3, so it's highly favoring a Newbee at this point. This allows the Sand King to buy a gem, right? An 18-minute gem. This is really good because they recognize that he went Shadow Blade and also, you know, for dewarding in general. Yeah. I think this is one of the smartest pickups in this game. And this is going to cause Mushi problems starting at this point.
Yeah. When you look at it, if you look at the items now, I mean, Newbee pretty much have what they want. They've got the Blink Dagger on the Sand King, they've got the Bloodstone on the Timber Sword, that's huge.
An 18-minute Bloodstone.
Yeah, that's so good. Like, this Timber Sword is rolling. He has 4, 0, and 2, so he is a huge problem right now, in particular for the Nature's Prophet, but also just in general. Yeah.
Talk about Shadow Demon in just a second. He maxed Poison, right? Instead of Soul Catcher. Usually you pair up a Shadow Demon with something else like a Mirana or a Lina or a Lestrak or something. You get a disruption off, you put the Soul Catcher on, and you get a Poison sack. But then that amplifies all damage taken. So if you have another nuke to follow up, then it does a lot of damage. Okay, in this case, he doesn't really have any of that. Mushi ends up going down top, but I was going to finish my thought real quick. He doesn't have that, so then he decides to go this maxing Shadow Poison build, okay? Now, when you actually get that max, it does a lot of damage. Alright, 65 times 5, so that's 1,600? No. Yeah, about 1,600. Shadow Poison, I think it's about 1,600.
Oh yeah, it is.
Under attack.
And I know this has an effect later in the game when they're sieging base. This is actually a deceptively really high damage nuke, because You see, when you're looking at an opponent and you put the shadow damage over them, you see the numbers stack up, but they don't. They can see it only if they look above their ability bar, you know, where all your buffs are shown. That's the only place where they can look to see the effect of it. So it's a very misleading high damage spell. So I think that was a really smart choice by MMOI this game.
Yeah, it's just a huge damage ability if you can get the time to get it off. But I think actually this game it's a bit hopeful to try and get that many stacks.
Right, it's really only effective if you're sieging or if they're sieging.
Yeah, and if you look at Newbee's lineup, they're just so mobile. Like they're gonna be on them in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's just not. I don't think this is really a Shadow Demon game, to be honest.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. There isn't a like okay if Ember gets like some seriously sick items, then the disruption illusion starts to do some damage. But I mean Ember can just flee, like he'll just be out of there. The demonic purge, like the huge slow there. All these heroes are really good against slow. Like you can slow the treant, I guess, and then he'll have a hard time escaping. But the rest, not really. So yeah, he's just gonna have like I think maybe you know getting a bunch of shadow poison off is his best bet of having a good impact. But it's gonna be tough.
I can mention warding real quick. The wards placed from Newbee are absolutely phenomenal in getting stuff done. They had one top lane that was behind the tier 1 tower, which let them know if someone was pushing out too far or if they were retreating. They have another one at the Ancients, which is about to time out, which is pretty huge in that you don't want to see, or you want to be able to see a stack, because DK can farm it up as soon as he gets level 2 ult, which he's 11 now. He can farm it pretty quickly. Also, Prophet can farm it effectively with Treants pretty early.
Top tower is under attack.
And then they have one in their jungle, which is where they put it at the beginning of the game as well. This ward is really deceptive. There's one right here, and there's one you can put on the other side of the stairs that are usually not key points for people to deward, unless you have like a gym. Enchantress goes... Oh, yeah, that's about all I was going to say from warding. You have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so... We have another, like this is one of the scenarios where Mirana becomes really good, and we're seeing this hyper mobility from Newbee coming into play. They're just completely pushing down on Mushi with impunity, even though he was, you know, very far away. Just the huge mobility from the heroes coming into play here. Huge pushing, like huge chasing potential from him, which is also very good against these split pushing lineups actually. Like you just can't run away from like a Blink Dagger, Sand King, Timber Sword, Mirana, and Ember Spirit. They're gonna be on you if they can find you. So I think this is the more and more I'm starting to see how this is just a case of DK kind of being outdrafted, to be honest. Newbee just kind of smelling out their tactic here and just being able to counter it very, very effectively.
If they'd gotten more towers down, I think it would have been a lot more effective. It would have been a pretty different story. Right, because they could just man up and not worry about chasing, because they would just overpower them.
Like, of course, if you manage to win your lanes, it's a completely different thing, but I think it's very clear that they did not do that at all.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So now they're trying to chase Timbersaw down and punish him for this. But even with all that's happening here, they have to sacrifice so much between the living armor, between how much farm he has. He's just so hard to kill, and he still has the blood zone, so he gets the deny off. And they just had to spend like more than a minute killing off the Timbersaw here, and he was pretty close to escaping even.
He was really close. That disruption came in just the last second.
Yeah.
So the highest net worth on Dire is Nature's Prophet, right? And he had to go Orchid in order to have any offensive capabilities, because this Shadow Blade is nullified completely by this gem pickup, right?
Yeah.
So this is setting Prophet behind a lot in split pushing areas. Like he can silence someone like a Sand King or whatever to get out to safety, or if he sees someone, then he can go for pickoff, because I know he did to the Sand King earlier in the game. But now he's being forced to go BKB if he wants to man up in a fight, which still, again, hinders his split pushing abilities. So the Prophet doesn't have nearly the impact that they were going for in this.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, because I think the Prophet's kind of a boring hero, but
Yeah, like
Talking objectively.
playing a Nature's Prophet when there's a farm timber saw on the field is just pain.
And a sinking too.
Yeah, both of those really bad.
They just counter Prophet so hard and the Prophet
Yeah.
can't run away. Or he has to blow cools to run away.
Yeah, so now the game is I don't think it's unfair to say that it's kind of spiraling out of control for DK. Well, not that that implies they had control at one point, which I don't think.
Yeah.
So the Timber Saw is just punishing them with impunity now. They are getting some kills off on the supports, like, but the Sand King doesn't really care if he dies at this point. It's just gonna like be more functionality he gets if he, you know.
Right. How many stuns he can blow for him?
Yeah, just, you know, okay, if he gets an axe or if he
Dire's
gets like
middle tower is
a
under
veil or
attack.
something, that'll be nice, but it's not really crucial. He's got the blink, which is really the big item for him. It's the things they need to do right now is honestly kill the Ember and kill the Timber Saw. Killing the Mirana is nice, but honestly it's the Timber Saw and the Ember they need to suppress here. Those two can really just become such a pain. Of course, Ember, I think, can downright just run away with the game, and he's actually bought Ghost Scepter.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that. What do you think?
I think
Dire's
they have not
bottom
very
tower
much
is
nuke
under
on
attack.
DK.
I agree. It completely nullifies Enchantress's
Yeah.
impetus. The Druid can't touch you. He doesn't even have Radiance.
Yeah.
Dragon Knight can only breathe fire.
So very
Prophet
good.
can't do anything.
Yeah. So that means so that means the abilities on the field that can stop Ember from escaping with the Ghost Scepter is Disruption and Dragon Tail.
Right.
Right. And Dragon Tail, if I recall,
Dire's middle tower
has
is
a
under
12-second
attack.
cooldown still. So that means pretty much it's just a really good item for allowing him to just escape. Yeah.
Yeah. Escape
Dire's
and
middle
well, I guess
tower has
the
fallen.
only way it could backfire for him is if he gets Max Shadow Poison.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he
but-
activates Ghost Scepter. But that's about the only way they can kill the Simba right now.
Dire's
That's
top
you
tower is
know
under
that's not
attack.
gonna happen. Like he's gonna be in
Dire's
he's
top
gonna have to
tower
be
has
fighting in
fallen.
the same place for, let's see, what's the cooldown on this? 2.75 seconds. So he'll have to be fighting consecutively for about 15 seconds in the same place. And I don't think that's gonna happen, and certainly not, you know, with a Shadow Demon living through it. That sounds very unlikely to me.
Yeah. So he's actually caught up in levels to the Timber. I mean, they were both solos, but they're both level 16, 26 minutes in. Or now Timber's 17, which is pretty big. And the Druid has finished Radiance. That's the Druid, I think, is about, or I guess the Druid and the Prophet are their only hopes in order to get enough damage out to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're keeping up with and farm decently well, right? They're third and fourth place in the farm wars.
Yeah.
Autumn doesn't have too much of a difference, and that her ult is giving is huge, and then long duration arrows. That's about it. All Autumn's offering.
Yeah.
So she gets up a Deso.
Yeah, so a huge chaotic fight here. We had a bit of a weird attempt at a smoke gank, or another weird attempt at a smoke gank, but we sort of had the whole of Newbee moving past Roshan and over towards the Dire side Ancients, while DK, the Dire side, was moving down from their off lane into the Radiant jungle, and they just sort of ran into each other at an odd moment. DK did manage to get off some wards here, but else they just got into a bad fight here. And we are seeing them having very much trouble actually making damage connect here. I think that is that is the major thing that's going wrong for them here in these team fights. There's just so much crowd control going on from Newbee, and they just, beyond right clicks, they have very little damage going on.
Yeah. Oh, from Newbie or from DK?
DK.
Okay, yeah.
Dire's bottom tower is
Agreed.
under attack.
Yeah. There's plenty of damage going on Newbee. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I think this game is lost at this point.
Yeah.
I don't see how to come back.
Dire's
Because, I
bottom
mean,
tower
DK's
has
been
fallen.
continually trying to fight instead of farming up BKB. Like, if he had a BKB in that fight, that might have been a little different, because then Timbersaw does nothing to you besides reducing your max HP, right? Ember can't touch you. I mean, at this point he's a battle free, so he
Radiant's top tower is under
right-clicks
attack.
decently hard, but he only has one damage item.
yeah.
Potom didn't have Deso at that point, so that fight might have been a little different if he had BKB by then, but at this point now it's like really, really hard.
But
I
okay.
mean, now the guy has Chrysalis as well.
Okay, well, okay. Let's say he gets the BKB. What is he really gonna do in a fight? He's got a Shadow Blade and then nothing, pretty much. So I think.
Well, that's the point of DK. He offers stuff by existing, right? Because he gets off splash damage and it does damage over time, right? So he soaks up a ton of damage, which allows something else to do right click, like a druid or the Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, but we're kind of at the point where you know, a 300 damage splash is not fantastic like at 30 minutes. It's not gonna kill off anyone outright. At maybe
right, which
10,
is why
10
he needed
minutes
the
ago.
BKB earlier.
Radiant's
Yeah.
top tower is
So
under
I think if
attack.
he gets a BKB now, all he's really doing is some survivability for the next maybe 10 minutes. Oh, they're gonna get caught on by an industry in here. Oh, nice disruption on the DK. Gonna allow him to survive for a second more, but two of them from Timbersaw are just gonna grind him down, and this is just slaughter. Sand King's gonna pay the price for jumping in, but you know, again, as we talked about, a very low priority target, and he's probably really happy with this trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny watching Treant attack an Enchantress. And he already attacks so slow, but
Oh yeah, that
Radiant's
touch
courier
is like
has been killed.
so slow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a Daedalus, a Deso. They're stacked.
Roshan has
This is
fallen
the
to
beginning
ring.
of not the beginning. This is the middle of the end. For DK
This is the
here.
middle of the end. Yeah. Yeah, that's a
They
good way
do.
to put it.
If I remember correctly, they have a fantastic like hold off for once. Like they almost kill like 3 of them. I think it's a fantastic fight, kind of
Courier has
hilarious,
been
but
killed.
we'll get there. Prophet has a BKB and Maelstrom. Like he's farming hard for being so far behind.
Oh yeah,
That's
Prophet
pretty
one of
significant
those. Nature's Prophet one of those heroes that if played correctly will get a lot of farm almost no matter what. Will do. Yeah, will get some items off. So he's a fantastic hero if you need utility like. If you know, if it was one carry that was the problem, you could get like a sheep stick or something. If they needed pushing power, they could get like a necro, yeah.
Radiant's
But in this
top
game,
tower
there's just
has
so
fallen.
many problems.
Dire's middle tower
To go on
is under
Lamb here,
attack.
he's pretty screwed because, well, I mean, there's a nice destruction, but it's a little. I think he dies. Yeah, he ends up dying
Radiant's
with
top
the
tower is
cleave.
under attack.
And then Mushi pops BKB, but he's kind of dead.
Yeah.
The guy has actually a ton of. Did you see that?
Radiant's top tower
the
has
Ember?
fallen.
Okay, well, let's see. He's got 4 Shadow Poisons so far. He Ghost Sceptered. If he blows it now, that's gonna do a lot of damage. Oh, he waited too long.
Yeah, but he's
Okay,
still
6 Shadow Poisons. That was like 1400 damage there.
Yeah, and then the impede is finishing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they managed to kill the Ember, and that kind of holds off the push for now.
Radiant's bottom
Just the
tower
Ember is
is
so
under
important.
attack.
That harassment you can do with just the Slayer Fist Searing Change combo is unreal. And just, honestly, if there's one thing that makes that hero seem broken, it's that you can do that. Yeah, it's just almost impossible to hold off. Like, he's just such a good just for forcing high ground.
Right.
Yeah, there's
And for
not.
holding high ground.
Yeah. Yeah, he's. The more I talk
like
about
if you
that
don't
hero,
catch
the more
him, then
broken
he
seems.
does. Yeah. The only way to stop an Ember is to shut him down early. It's like not letting a PL farm.
Yeah.
It's not too terribly hard to kill him, especially now. He got nerfed harder,
but the PL needs a lot more farm than an Ember, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you don't shut him down early, then he's like nigh impossible to deal with. Like,
Yeah. The one thing you can do against an Ember that's really good is these instant silences.
Yes.
Because he isn't, you know, he is very, very, very squishy. Like even now at level 19, he's only at 1600 HP and 8 armor. Like that is paper at this point. If we compare him to like the Shadow Demon, okay, that is a bad comparison. But like the Enchantress is actually around the same tank. And that's you know, that's a support versus a mid, another mid, but a safe lane carry this game, I think.
yeah, a core hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. He's squishy as hell, you
Yeah.
know, but you have to build a team around him. Like Timbersaw is not squishy. A tree makes him not squishy.
Yeah.
So, with the right lineup, he works. He just
Yeah,
needs to make
Timbersaw
sure
is a
that he
good
gets something.
compliment just because Timbersaw, especially in this lineup, will just be so hard to bring down. That's another thing. Timbasaw's big weakness, especially in lane, is huge nukes against silencers, and those are just not present for DK.
Right. That's why Prof had to go Orchid.
Yeah.
That's about it. They have no natural silences or not even really good stuns. They have one stun, and then an Enchantress creep, and I guess Entangle too. That's about it. Because like Sprout has no effect because they have a freaking Timber Saw and a leaf, and like every tree can go invisible. Like every single one of their heroes can deal with Sprout.
yeah. It's just that hypermobility just screwing them over so hard there.
So I'm pretty sure they lose 2 Raxes here and then they GG out, but Prophet ends up pulling Ember back because that's what Prophet does.
Can we pause? Because I think we are a bit desynced.
I'm at 48-25 right now.
Okay, so we are just 6 seconds off. I'll just go back to yours right now. 25. Okay, this is gonna be...
I was just recalling from my memory, I wasn't way too far ahead.
There we go. Yeah, okay, I'm at 48-25 now.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1, and go. So yeah, this is DK are most certainly struggling. Like if you just look at the towers, it looks very even. If you look at the kills, it looks not even at all. But you know,
get a net worth. Prophet's actually on top. Like he has done his job in this game.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing they can't really, or they can, but they focused much more on shutting down the lone druid than the Prophet, and I think that's absolutely correct.
Yes.
They're dying
it's
so
really
easily.
hard to shut down a Prophet from
Dire's
this.
middle tower
Yeah.
has
Look at
fallen.
that cleave! Oh my gosh.
And yeah, the way Prophet works is that he can farm insanely well, but he doesn't have any carry potential really.
He carries by being items ahead. But right now that Timber has 6 Shadow Demon poisons on him.
Yeah.
7 health. Look at that health! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I'm telling you, those poisons, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it definitely does work, but it's just not enough. Like,
they end up getting 2 kills and they got the Aegis, but yeah, they just So yeah, Mushi had to end up selling his Locos with Shadowblade to buy a BKB that fight. Like, he was just shut down this game. There's not too much a Dragon I can do against Timbersaw, but even more so than that, he just...
So it ends up being sort of like that their carry potential on Newbee is kind of split 3 ways. Like they have to stop the Mariana, the Timbersaw, and the Ember Spirit. Hopefully if they can stop 2 of those, I think they hold. But if they just stop the Ember, there's still, you know, the Timbersaw and the Mariana to deal with.
Right, and they didn't... I mean, Shadow Demon Enchantress is a good ganking lineup, but they didn't have pretty much any effects as compared to, like, a solo Sand King.
Yeah. So Timbersaw picks up a Shiva's Guard here, and I think this is the perfect item here. When you have a team that is so reliant on just, you know, right-clicking damage, which I think, aside from the Shadow Demon poisons starting to do work because in these sieging scenarios, then, you know, that's the only real heavy magic damage. And then the Shiva's Guard it's just gonna be such a huge impact on the right-click damage. Both on the Timbersaw himself by giving him armor when he isn't, you know, chock full of reactive armor stacks, which is a big problem for him. If you aren't in a scenario where you can get those stacks up, then you're actually really low armor. So if you can get heavy physical damage on him before he gets those up, it can be a bit of a problem. Shiva's Guard gives you those 15 armor to, you know, soften those initial blows, and also just by the fact that it has 40 attack slow aura, which is huge. Yeah,
and the active is pretty significant as well because he relies on slowing his opponents, which gives him another slow.
Yeah, and just as a nuke, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna start fast forwarding because I know I'm gonna fast forward to where they push the Rex on bottom, and then I'm pretty sure they GG out after that. Yeah. But it's just the Prophet couldn't keep up with the 3 cores of the other one, and DK had about no effect this game.
Yeah, that's
I'm pretty sure that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
I mean, Druid by the end had up an AC, right, and a Radiance. And he went Midas, which is greedy as hell against this lineup. Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to mention is that they went 2 Midases, so I think that's just a kind of DK knowing they're in trouble and just figuring if we're gonna win this, we're gonna win this by winning hard early.
Yeah, they go on the Ember, but he just Ghost Scepters and they can't touch him. Yeah. That was actually a brilliant pickup. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just cleaves everything. It's a 345 damage crit, which isn't huge, but the Timber and the Hot Armor are stacked at this point.
Yeah, the Timber's just, you know, it's just keeping it alive, and all these low cooldown spells with pure damage is just tearing through them.
Radiant
There's the
victory.
GG.
GG.
I'll just go forward to have the end screen and we can do a bit of
Post-game analysis.
yeah. There we go. So I think this game, I think we've covered the major points. Honestly, this is to me a pretty clear outdrafting.
Yeah.
Just a very, honestly, a super heavy split pushing lineup. I can't remember a lineup I've seen, certainly not drafted regularly, where you have all of these heroes with split pushing potential. Normally you just have like a Clinks or a Weaver or a lone Nature's Prophet and just kind of use that as your split pushing thing. Right? And just to have the whole lineup do it seems really weird to me. And this isn't really a like you have seen 5-man pushing lineups, but then they revolve around heroes like Lycan, who can do these Howl or Luna with her aura that just enables your whole team to innately push. Or heroes like Pugna or like a Leshrac occasionally, or like Shadow Shaman, and just these very hard to counter pushing abilities. Here it's more sort of a it's honestly a very weird lineup from DK the more I look at it.
It's greedy, too greedy.
Yeah. Very greedy. And certainly with 2 Midases it just becomes ridiculous greedy.
Yeah.
I think on the Nature's Prophet it paid off, but I mean, yeah, he just couldn't make up for it. There's just, it's kind of, I think of Nature's Prophet as one of these kind of putty heroes that can kind of do whatever you need. Almost
It's kind of like a Doom, because he farms so fast.
Yeah.
And he can build whatever, right, and still continue to farm.
Yeah, exactly. I think Invoker is somewhat the same way, just because of how versatile the hero is. You can get your Sheepstick if you need to, you can get your Necro if you need to, and you can get your, in this case, your Orchid, you can get your Mjolnir, you could have gotten a Desolator in certain situations. Like you can just sort of toolbox and go, okay, what is it my team's problem is right now, and what can I do to fill that gap? And the problem is when there's just too much of a gap to fill, as is the case here, where they just kind of, okay, we're getting chased down. I could go for like a reactive option and try to do more of that. And we are also they're counting our pushing very efficiently. So maybe I could get a Necro to do that. And we're also missing a way to just kill them. Like they have so much escape. How do we actually log a hero down and get a pick off? And that's I think the last option is the one he's trying to counter with the or he's trying to fill. Like that's the gap he's trying to fill with the Orchid. Is I go in, I silence him, we get a pick off on a big hero like an Ember or Timbersaw. I don't know if that really materialized for them, but I think that was what he was trying to do.
I know he ended up getting a Sand King kill with it when he first picked it up, but
wow.
I think that was about it.
Yeah,
that's it did not have an effect.
Yeah, that's not what you pick it up for.
Yeah. But I agree with you. Serious outdrafting.
Yeah.
But just saying, not downplaying anything from what Newbee did. I mean, the Sand King solely, I should say, solo took down. He did better ganking than a duo Enchantress Shadow Demon early. He got up a 12-minute blink or something like that.
Brilliant movement from Banana here.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Like just he gets 2 supports that goes into his jungle, like from minute 2, and not even
boots
that. Like
first,
that was
apparently legit.
Yeah, boots first, just anticipating the needing to escape. Like that has to be it. Like there's no other thing those boots first gives you.
Heroes like Sand King and Tree are some of the 2 of the few ones that benefit from boots first, because Sand King has to be close because his stun is so poor early levels.
Yeah.
So that's about the only thing that makes it legit.
Yeah,
most heroes you do not want to go boots first.
It could be that he was just looking to do these early rotations and just needed the boots in order to land, a level 1 or level 2 Barrow Strike, which is just a short range. Yeah, that is true. But then it's still supremely impressive that he can have 2 supports that try to shut him down heavily in his jungle, and then still manages to go for, successful rotations and get kills, and still a 12-minute blink dagger. That's just really impressive. Sorry. Thanks. Oh. Yeah, so I think he's my MVP here. I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whoever did the drafting, also very well done.
But yeah, okay. I think that's about it for this game. It was
Yeah, I
pretty.
think so
It was a stomp, but we figured out why they stomped.
I think it was a very interesting game.
I think so too.
So, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe to Academy of the Ancients, and if you're feeling like it, also check out Dr. Assume here's version. I'll be putting a link to that in the video description, and feel free to follow him as well. I'm sure he'll be putting up some of his some content of his own as well. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.